Hello, my name is Epic Bubble, and I sometimes go by the name of Simon, and welcome to a Thoughts video. Now, this Thoughts video is on Imperial Assault, Star Wars Imperial Assault. You may have noticed in my previous video that I covered Star Wars Legion. I kind of talked about how Star Wars Imperial Assault was one of my favorite games, and I thought I'll just give thoughts and my opinion on why I like it so much. Now, that's not to say that this is a review video. No, this is very much more just me blabbering on about why I really like the game, what I would like to see in the game, and what things do irk me, but not enough that this is out of my collection. No, by far, if anything, this game is number one. Now, I should preface that by saying a lot of that is due to the fact that I love Star Wars. You see, when I was growing up, I think when I was about 10, Star Wars Episode 1 came out, Phantom Menace. And for me as a 10-year-old kid, that was a pretty big movie. I mean, that had everything a 10-year-old me would like. It had fantastic lightsaber combat. It had that huge mechanized army going up against Gungan shield generators, and it just felt awesome. And then, of course, there was pod racing, which, again, as a 10-year-old kid, I actually really enjoyed. And then it kind of just grew from there. I previously had seen my parents' old VHS tapes of Star Wars, and then in America, I got to see episode 2, and then later on episode 3. And now my love for Star Wars has continued. Obviously, playing a lot of video games like Knights of the Old Republic, or Jedi Academy, or even Star Wars Battlefront or Star Wars Battlefield. Those are all games I thoroughly enjoyed. So when Fantasy Flight brought out Star Wars Imperial Assault, I kind of had to get it. Now, you might be wondering why I haven't got other games in my collection like Star Wars X-Wing or Star Wars Armada or even the new Star Wars Rebellion. And that's for a few reasons. Star Wars X-Wing I didn't want to pick up because by the time I was out and by the time I was getting into board games, they already had like 10 waves or something, or 5 waves of ships, and I didn't feel like the investment was really worth it for me. Likewise, Star Wars Rebellion came out after Imperial Assault, and that's a game that's really cool, but sadly, it's not a game that I particularly enjoy, and a lot of that has to do with the Star Wars story. Now, what I mean by that is, I like Star Wars, I like the characters in Star Wars, but that's a story that's already been told. You know, we all know that Luke blew up the Death Star, we all know that Han Solo gets frozen in carbonite, and so what I don't like about Star Wars Rebellion, it kind of like this mixes and matches and mixes a hodgepodge of storytelling that isn't really fun. I like to tell my own stories in the Star Wars universe, and I feel like imposing on those characters and having them do weird stuff is kind of a bit of a shame. It doesn't really feel like it fits for me, which is probably why I like Star Wars Imperial Assault so much. It tells a story, but more importantly, it tells my own story, and it tells my story with a bunch of my friends. And the thing is, it is Star Wars in a box, let's be fair. The one of the reasons I love this game so much is because it is Star Wars in the box. I have, if I just look over here, I have a boatload of minifigures. I have stormtroopers, I have royal guards, I have ISB agents. Now, I should preface this by saying that I have a ton of expansions. I think I have every single expansion that came out and all the blister packs which have miniature figures inside them as well. But there's enough content in the base game to really that you can play that base game 3 or 4 times before you see the same things happen over and over again. There's enough content there and enough missions to really do that. And for me, having all this available to me is fantastic. I think I have what? Return to Bespin, Tatooine, or Twin Shadows. There is Return to Hoth as well. There is the new Jabba the Hutt one, the Scum and Villainy expansion, and of course the base game. And they're bringing out Edge of the Empire as well. So there's about 6 modules of storytelling worth, and the stories aren't like they don't take a short amount of time to finish. No, like even the short missions or the short campaigns are like under the in Twin Shadows. That's 4 missions, and for me, that's great because that's going to be 4 hours of me and my friends probably sitting through a day of playing. And generally, what I do is right before a Star Wars movie comes out, I invite my friends over and we kind of play through that, and they have fun, and they kind of I have the music going, and it's all Star Warsy and epic. And that's great. It allows me to share my love of Star Wars with my friends, and it's love I developed by myself, really. Now, that's not to say that the game is carried only by the Star Wars brand. No, in fact, the game is actually really good in itself. There's a lot of decision making as you play the game as to what you're doing. If you're the Imperial, you're wondering how you can maybe stop the Rebel heroes from getting through. If you're playing as the Rebels, you're constantly working with your friends to say, okay, well, maybe I should go grab this crate while you take out that stormtrooper so that I don't have to get damaged by it. Or maybe I should rest up for this turn, but if I do that, then I'm not going to be able to get to objective next turn. And it's so crunchy, the decision making that takes place during the game and after the game. After the game, you're going to be talking to your friends and be like, oh, you had that really cool shot that you did and you managed to take out that stormtrooper in one blow. And, oh, it was incredible. We managed to clear that pathway. And it feels great for every single person playing it. And then the game kind of just says, do you want more? And you're like, yes, I want more. And the game says, well, I have more. If you're the Rebel player, you can play a hero. Like I have the cards for Jin Ordan currently. She's a smuggler, totally not related to Jin Ursa from Rogue One, but you can do a lot of things with her cards depending on what weapons you buy for her. She can maybe be a character that's taking tons of attacks and just trying to whittle people down, giving them horrible conditions like being stunned. You just knock out a whole line of stormtroopers just giving them the stun condition. Or she can be a bit more evading, a bit more clever. She can kind of weave through the battlefield and try and get to those objectives faster. And you can build her in 2 different ways, which is really cool. And then you even have more heroes. I think I have a stack here. This is obviously from the expansions. In the base game, you get 6, and you can only play with 4 at a time, so you really have choices there. And then I have all of these, and some of my favorite Vanera Talos. We had Mon Calamari Sniper. We have a Mandalorian Warrior. That's awesome. We have a huge hulking Aquilish bodyguard. Again, as soon as you get into the game, as soon as you show your friends, you're like, oh, your friends are just instantly going to jump to a character because there's enough characters for them to relate to. Even if they don't like Star Wars, they're like, I want to play as the guy that says it's a trap, or, you know, I want to play as a robot. You can do that. You can play as a robot. Or, of course, if you want to play as Chewbacca, you can always just play as Chewbacca or the wannabe Chewbacca. But the game gives you so many possibilities as the Rebel heroes. And what I like as well is because I obviously own the game, I have to be able to read the rules, and therefore I have to kind of know the story. And so I end up playing the bad guy, and I end up playing the Imperial. But you have so much choice. Again, the mission is going to give you a few heroes to start off with, or a few models. You know, you might have 2 battalion of stormtroopers you can deploy during the battle, and you might have to have, say, a royal guard show up at some point. But then the game kind of says, well, you can have 3 open groups, and that might be anything from, say, having a huge ATST, all-terrain scout walker. No, wait, all-terrain scout transport. Or I can just maybe, if I want to, throw in a Rancor. Why not? Like, look at that guy. Look, how can you put this onto the board with your friends, and they're instantly going to be scared and afraid, and you'll be like, yes, I have the power. But that's what makes it so cool. Everyone's seen the movies, so as soon as they see Darth Vader show up on the board, they instantly are like, oh shit, yeah, we may have screwed up. And again, you have choices. Even as the game finishes, players are going to be deciding what upgrades to get, what XP they're going to be spending on, what weapons they're going to buy. And then they have missions. There's a whole bunch of side missions they could possibly go on, which might be able to give them, say, a Wookiee warrior or 2 to accompany them on their little adventure. Or, you know, they might recruit some of the defenders from Hoth who somehow managed to survive. But they can do that, and same. Or they might want to try and stop one of your missions if you're the Imperial player, because you're busy plotting there secretly, deciding their downfall. You get a whole bunch of agenda cards, which are like all these things that you can play either once, or they might allow you to unlock rewards, which give your stormtroopers just better abilities, or it might just be something as nice as Boba Fett. If you don't go on this mission, I get Boba Fett, and that's great. Like, that's amazing to have that. And the game still has these wonderful moments. You could say throw Dengar onto the field as a bounty hunter and have him lay down terrible conditions like being stunned or weakened or blinded or horrible stuff that could happen to the rebel heroes. Likewise, you could have, say, General Vice staying next to an ATST commanding it to just shoot down the rebel heroes, and they're all busy panicking, trying to decide, do we take out the ATST or do we take out the general instead? There's so many decisions that this game allows for, and it really is Star Wars in a box. It's not a Star Wars movie, no, but it's my Star Wars that I can share with my friends. And again, you have enough content in the base game itself to play multiple times. You get Darth Vader, you get Luke Skywalker, and their missions that you can go on. If you want to hire Luke Skywalker to accompany you for a few missions, you can go ahead and do that. And then, of course, there's also the skirmish mode. The game actually comes with skirmish maps, and you can decide, well, I'm going to be the rebel player, and I'm going to be the Imperial player, and I'm going to command a whole bunch of rebel troopers. You're going to command a whole bunch of stormtroopers, or whatever you like, and you can battle each other out on a one-shot mission where you have objectives that each side's trying to get. And that's such a nice addition to a game that's already fleshed out. Now, that's not to say the game has flaws. The game tends to be a bit one-sided sometimes. Sometimes the heroes can be far too overpowered for a certain scenario. Sometimes the Imperial has a bit too many units that the people have to get through. There's also a horrible case of the dice sometimes being a bit grindy. I want to say I like dice combat, but sometimes it's just like shoot, roll, defense, shoot, roll, defense. And it kind of does tend to drag on. That's not also to say that the game does have a lot of stuff going for, and that means there's a lot of stuff you have to keep track of. Thankfully, there is an app currently that I do use, which kind of just allows me to keep track of how much money my players have and what agendas I possibly can use. But I really am hoping the Imperial app comes out from Fantasy Flight soon. If that can allow me to not play as the Imperial, or even if that is just a better tracker, or even if it comes with its own stories, that's still such a cool addition. So, my overall thoughts. When I said that this is my favorite game, I 100% mean it. I already talked about Concordia in my previous video, and that is a game that's my favorite because it's so incredibly well designed. Star Wars Imperial Assault still has nagging issues. It's not to say that's an American trash game with a huge... And the rules are sometimes a bit... There's a rules reference guide for a reason, because sometimes they're a bit hard to follow. But for me, because of my love of Star Wars, this is a game that I will keep forever. I can play this with my grandchildren and my children in the next 10 or 20 years' time. I can sit down with my family, and I can have them watch Star Wars Rebels, and then I can bring out Hera and have her show up. And again, that's fantastic. That's such amazing storytelling that you just don't get in other games. Maybe my kids will want to play a Jedi Exile, and maybe they want to try and get a lightsaber, or maybe they want to play as a Mon Calamari sniper. There's possibilities are almost endless. Or maybe they just want to play as a badass. Maybe my kid just wants to play as a badass chick who basically stabs people with a knife and then takes their gun and shoots other people with their gun. There's so much going for this game. This is a dungeon crawler, but the way it's done, it just brings the Star Wars brand to life. The miniatures are fantastic. You have so many options. Missions only take an hour, and you have the Star Wars music playing in the background, and it just completes the whole experience. I can't say enough good things about Star Wars. I hope you get a chance to play it. Even if you're not a Star Wars fan, you can still appreciate what this game is trying to do for the franchise and what the game is doing in terms of a game. This is a fantastic dungeon crawler for you and your friends, and for me, it's a nice way that I can be like, hey guys, do you want me to be evil for a day? Can I be the Imperial player? No, it's fine. Darth Vader's not going to show up, but something else will. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. As always, if you enjoyed it, please leave a like, and of course subscribe if you want to see more of these videos, and leave a comment. I would love to hear your thoughts about moments that happened to you while playing this game. Bye.